Hey, good afternoon, Juanita.
Hi, Mark. How are you? Hello, viewers.
Fantastic. And welcome everyone to Estate and Succession Mastery for this fortnight. And today we're talking about the value of having checklists as part of having conversations around these topics. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I love a checklist. In all aspects of life, I love a checklist. Makes me feel very calm and organized. Even if I haven't done it yet, if I've got a checklist, I feel in control. So I'm
Are
loving
you,
this topic today. Loving this.
so are you one of these people that when you get up in the morning, you write a list of all the things you're going to achieve for the day? And are you one of those?
Well, I'll just show you what I've got here. I'll take my notes off it. But yes, all the things I get to do today.
And so tell me, if you do something that's not on the list, what happens?
It just rolls over to tomorrow.
No. If you do something that wasn't on the
Oh,
list,
yeah, good. That's not
do
on the
you,
list. Give
yeah, do you
myself,
write it on the list so just so you can cross it out?
I get a gold star for being even better.
No, I love it when people do lists and if they do something that wasn't on the list, they actually write it down so they get the pleasure of crossing it off.
Yeah. What's the problem?
Why is that funny? Why is that strange? Is that what you're saying? Okay, so today we want to talk about checklists and the importance of them. And you sound like the guru here, so I might just hand over to you. But certainly, as you know, we've created a number of checklists to help people with their estate and succession planning. And the first one I'm going to put up is Exhibit A. And before I do, you know we've had squabble scorecards, and we've done a whole lot of different scorecards to help people sort of will killers and scorecards to help people work out what they may not have done. So I'm going to flash up on the screen the estate and succession planning checklist. And no, that's the wrong one. That one there.
Yeah.
And do you want to just talk about how this would help people?
Yeah. Well,
You have a list.
yeah, the different checklists that you've produced here, Mark, are really great for different situations. So, as I was flicking through them, I thought, you can never have too many checklists, can you? There's one for every occasion. So this one, I think you would have heard us previously if you're a regular listener, but if not, we always recommend that you review your estate planning at least every few years or when a significant event happens, such as marriage, births, divorces, buying a business, selling a property, that sort of thing. So I thought this checklist was a really good one to use at those times when you just want to review. I will either put something in place if you don't, but even if you have something in place, this is probably the good checklist to use just to go through and think, do I need to update anything? Has anything happened that I need to address? So just going through from top to bottom, obviously the top few ones are the very preliminary questions. Do you have a will, enduring power of attorney, or an advanced health directive? Please don't be alarmed if you don't. The answer for majority of people to these questions would be no. And that's where we need help. So I think then going through, if you do have this documents in place, there's some questions here that sort of direct you to think, do they address your situation? So, for example, does your will contain testamentary trust and have adequate asset protection? I won't read through every single one. Do you have documented and funded succession plan? So, that's really relevant if you have a business. For example, you might have acquired a business since you last did your estate planning.
Yeah, look, if I may cut in here for a sec, Juanita, something you said before was absolutely right. I think people, it's really useful to understand that I've never met anyone that's ticked yes to everything. So don't ever feel like you're a failure if you don't get 100% for this checklist. The purpose of checklists is just to help prompt people with things you don't know, things you haven't thought about, questions you didn't even know to ask yourself, and so on. And I tell you now, do you have a current, if that first question was, do you have a current appropriate will? would cut out 95% of the population anyway, or 90% of the population anyway, wouldn't it? Because even though you may have a will, it may not be relevant and current and appropriate right now. And same with your enduring powers of attorney. You may have nominated people that aren't even in your life anymore, and so on. So, this is a scorecard, a checklist, a thought start. They're really thought starters more than anything else. The chance for you to think about things that maybe you haven't thought about. And fear not, once you go through this and you have a look at some of these questions, and maybe we should read them out, because depending on what people are watching this on, if it's on an iPhone, they're never going to be able to read
sure.
the text. So, they're the first three. Do you have an advanced health directive, which is a really useful thing? You've talked about testamentary trusts. The fifth question, was, do you understand how you can protect your wealth for your spouse and children against failed marriages, early death, bankruptcy, excess taxation, or bad money management? So that's a swathe of issues that you're trying to protect there. But I mean, you can protect against all those things, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes back to having the adequate asset protection structures such as testamentary trusts.
Sure. Do you have a funded succession plan for your business? So if someone's going to buy you out, have you looked at how they're going to pay for it, or how one child's going to buy it from the other kids, and so on? Now, here we are. We're at 6 minutes 50, and we're up to, have you communicated all your wishes with your family or business partners? So let's talk about communication, Juanita.
As we do every week, it all comes back to good communication. So, it's fantastic if you've got all these documents in place, but a lot of angst and arguments and I guess, grief and etc. So many different emotions can be addressed with good communication right from the start. So we mention it every single week. So it hasn't taken long here to come up with that. The next one, this checklist is also really good if you're going to see your solicitor. I think there's lots of questions here that if you don't know the answer to, or you want to get some further information about, you should raise them with your solicitor when you do your estate planning. Are you aware some of your assets?
Hopefully they'll know the answer.
Well, I should hope so. If they don't, then come and see me.
Right.
Have you communicated all your wishes with your family business partners? Are you aware that some assets won't pass through your estate? And we've talked about this previously, things like superannuation, joint assets held with other people, assets owned by trusts and companies. Do you have a child or beneficiary with special needs? And have you created a specific fund and control around that person's needs? And what options are available to you if you have a child with special needs?
And I can refer us back to the session we did where you were zooming down the motorway to go to a workshop or a wedding or something like that, where we talked about special needs trusts and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some great feedback on that session too. Yes, and I was zooming down the highway, not driving, however. Is your family aware of your funeral and final wishes? So, Mark, you speak about this a lot. Taking that pressure and worry and unsure of things away from the people that are grieving after you leave. So having those wishes communicated or documented. Have you checked your superannuation beneficiary nomination requirements? And what that means, for those that aren't aware, is that you can nominate who you wish to be the beneficiary of your superannuation. Well, not can, you must nominate separately to your will. So is that paperwork in place? A lot of people don't know about that, I find. So very, very important. Do your beneficiaries have certainty around your succession plans? Or could your spouse unknowingly change things if you die first? Particularly relevant to blended families, which is more and more common these days. Are all your financial, legal and business documents current, appropriate, properly documented, tax effective, fair and legal? And do you know where they are? Is that also another good question?
Yeah, that's right.
Someone know where they are.
Where do we find them? Where do we find them?
Yeah, absolutely.
We call that one the delinquent documents. In other words, when all your documents are out of date, non-existent, irrelevant, not current, and so on. They're delinquent documents. But it's very important to ask that question, and yeah, I should have put in there where they are.
Absolutely. Are your executors still the most appropriate people to take on that role? So that's a really important one, because often people will put their will in place, and over time things might change, relationships might change, your executors might pass away, your children might become adults, and you might prefer them to be in there. You might have an executor that moves away, which is still doable but different practically. So they're all the sort of things that might give you reason to reconsider that.
Look, absolutely, and because you know, I often use the example of, you know, when your kids are at school, you have a certain you have a certain group of friends, and they're really important to you at the time, but it really, you know, proves the point. Once your kids all finish school and go to university, your friends, in many, not long-term ones, but I mean a lot of your peripheral friends change and so on, and circumstances change, people move and whatever, and executor you had 10 years ago just may not be relevant, may not be a close family friend anymore, and that happens. So you know, you just need to make sure you're on top of that.
Have you created absolute fairness in your plans, or what is the chance your family members may contest your will? This is a really important question, and it's a discussion you should have with your solicitor when you're speaking to them. As we always say, fair doesn't necessarily mean equal, and there are lots of other things that can come into what is, you know, fair. But really importantly, if you are in a situation where you're concerned that a family member or a dependent may contest your will, you really, really need to get advice from a specialist around that aspect, and get advice on what you can do to minimise the risk that's involved there.
Yeah, I'm going to come back, Juanita, and just say this, more than anything else, is all about communication, because it's all very well to say you've created fairness and you know, as opposed to, you may have created equality, you may have, hopefully you've created fairness over equality. But if you don't have a conversation with your family about why you've done it and how you've done it and so on, you're just increasing exponentially the risk that someone's going to get confused when mum or dad pass away, and they're much, much more likely to want to contest a will if they don't understand the logic behind it, they don't understand why it was done. Because this might have been done 10 years ago and it seemed very logical to the parents at the time when they thought they were being fair, but it was never explained to the kids. You know, I'm just going to tell you, more than anything else, having the conversation, or having someone have a conversation with your children around why you've done certain things, is going to save more grief, heartache, and breakup of families than anything else you can possibly do.
Absolutely. Have you created a letter of wishes to ensure your family understands your plans? And that's that sort of documentation that Mark, you do a lot of work around, just providing, you know, people's intentions and wishes around the non-legal sort of stuff.
All the non-legal stuff, but all the human elements, and you know, we have referred to it a lot in the past, the Dear Mary letters and all that sort of stuff. I registered a new website today called Family Legacy Letters. And because that's really what it is. It's all the letters. It's the letters you're leaving for your family as part of your legacy. It's the way you're explaining. It's all the things you'd never want left unsaid. It's you know, helping them create a team of people to make sure everything continues after you're gone. They're the things that you need to do. So yeah, Family Legacy Letters. Watch this space. I've got motivated about creating a whole range of tools based on that.
Now you've finished your book, you need a new project.
I've got a new project happening. Yeah, that's right.
If you have a family trust, do you understand how that control will carry on? And another topic in its entirety is trust assets and how you pass on the control, particularly for a lot of our rural clients and business clients that have their trading entities in trusts and companies. This is a really important piece of advice to get.
Yeah. I reckon you could ask 99 people out of 100 would have no idea.
Yep. I would.
They think their will's going to sort it all out. I think if they have a family trust, yeah, that'll all be taken care of in the will. And the truth is, you know, some trusts have succession provisions built in, don't they? Others not so much. So you know, this is a whole topic in itself. But
yes,
you know, that's a great question to if you're bringing this list in to see a solicitor, you'd want to highlight that one to make sure you are aware of what's going to happen when you go.
Yep. Have you considered fairness and outcomes around your current family plans and contemplated what will happen in the future with blended families and potential stepchildren if your partner remarries, or if you remarry after your partner passes away? This is just more and more common these days. It's not an unusual situation for us to be dealing with. It's quite a normal, regular situation. So just sort of, contemplating blended families and what that means, and get your estate planning correct around that.
I mean, that's one of those things too, Juanita, that we've talked about before, but really needs a regular review, because as blended families blend over the years, what you'd want to do with your estate when you first enter a new relationship may change as time goes on, and people are more involved in the family, and they're part of the family, they're part of the wealth creation, and all those sorts of things. So, what may be the case when you first marry someone and blend a family, 5 years later, 10 years later, it's probably going to be a lot different. So you really always need to make sure you review how your estate is treating children, stepchildren, and so on, to make sure you're maintaining fairness, and also in a lot of cases you're maintaining the original intent of how those assets were to be distributed between maybe the original children. So it's certainly an area worth making sure you pay attention to.
Financially, are all your promises to your family funded? So the sort of thing that I think of when I read that is, you think about where you're going to leave all your debts, but have you considered where all your liabilities and or your mortgages, etc., are going? If you've promised asset A or a property to one child and everything else to the other child, does everything else include enough? What is left after the property? So just making sure that I suppose what your intentions are in your head actually carry out once your will is drafted.
Yeah, and look, it's all very well to sit there when you're drafting a will and say, I want my spouse to have the family home, and I want my kids to go to uni, and I want an income stream to go here and there and everywhere else. But it's kind of leading into the next thing we're going to say. But I mean, you need to make sure that what you're promising your family, and maybe if you have had conversations and made promises to your family, is the money there to guarantee that what your intentions are, what your intent is going to be honoured as part of the estate. And that's a really important question. I'm going to beat you to it on the last one, because I think this is just summarises everything. Do you have pride in what you have created and what is in place today, or what's going to be in place once you've been in to see a lawyer, to see a solicitor, and to get all this stuff taken care of? Because I think more than any other word, if you do a good job here, you should be really proud of what you've created, what you've generated, and the legacy that you're leaving behind for those that you love and those that you care for. So, be really sure that when this is all done, you do have pride in what you've created, and if people come and see the right lawyers, people like you, Juanita, and Murdoch's and whatever, that should be everyone's desired outcome from a customer point of view and from your point of view, which I'm sure it is. That when it's all said and done, mum and dad can walk away with a whole lot of pride, knowing that they've created fairness, they've communicated, they've set up promises for their family, and they're all going to be achieved.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I really see the weight lifted off people's shoulders when all of their estate planning is finalised and they feel really good about themselves and feel really satisfied, and can put that to one side for now until it needs to be reviewed. But it really is a weight lifted off people's shoulders and gives them a good feeling. So it's a great checklist, as we said. If you are looking to start your estate planning, if you're looking to review it, if you're going in to see a solicitor, this is a great checklist to use. So where can we find it, Mark? Is it on your website?
Look, I'll attach it to the on Facebook. I'll attach it underneath the post today with this video. But I'm just, I just want to say, look, we were just on a Zoom call half an hour ago, Juanita, with someone who's putting this all together for their family, and I could feel at the end that she was really proud of what we were doing for her, because she knew that whatever wealth that she wanted to pass on to her children was going to be done in a protected way. It was going to be fair. The right people were looking after the money. The right things were in place to make sure if anyone gets divorced or goes bankrupt or whatever happens, that the money is going to be there for her children and her grandchildren. And I kind of sensed that in that meeting that she was kind of proud of together what we'd all done. So great checklist. Remind me, and I'll make sure I put this on the website here. So let's we've got some time. Let's touch on one of the others, and I'll just zoom in on that a bit as well. Now, this one we've used a fair bit as part of a marketing campaign for ourselves, and this was because what we've really identified is that for most families, I don't help people with estate planning, succession planning. I help them with conflict resolution and communication issues, and that's pretty much what I do. And so we created this, what we call Squabble Scorecard, to help people understand that, children squabbling, fighting over money, contesting wills, not talking to each other again, and so on, is just just such a bad outcome. And if you pass away, and within a month or two afterwards, the kids are all fighting over money, you really have missed the last question in the last list, which was, are you proud of what you've done? So what we try and do is just, we've got 10 questions, and basically just starting off, do you know all the questions you need to ask in regard to the tax legal aspects to create a fair estate plan? And once again, there's no prize for whether you get this all right or you get it all wrong. I mean, the simple fact is, for most people, the answer to that is no, because you can't, like, I don't know how to make a cake. Okay, and so well, I probably could. You go to a shop, don't you? And you just buy it.
Buy one. You use the mix and you put it in the oven.
Yeah, see, I'm lost already. But this is the stuff we understand. So people can't be expected to know the answer to all these questions. So the unaware, the unknown unknowns is natural. I don't know how nuclear fission works. So clients can't be expected to know all the questions they need to ask to get an estate plan done. So, but it's identifying and telling the truth. You can't make any progress in any area in life until you tell the truth. So, if you don't know all the questions, put your hand up and say, hey, look, I need some help. Do people know about testamentary trust? Number 2, no, they don't, but they know they need it. Do you know how to start the planning process? And do you know who to get involved to make sure you get the best result? Well, once again, no. And, there's not many people like you guys, Juanita, who are actually specialists in estate and succession planning. And many times people go to the wrong door and knock on the wrong door, and it's never going to sort of have a good result. So it's all about protecting wealth, open communication. Can you read these ones? Have you got that in front of you?
Absolutely. This section sort of makes me think about how often the other side to we see so many matters in the other side to our wills and estates law, which is estate disputes and litigation. And really these things here are suggestions to try to eliminate or minimise those arguments after you've passed away, or even before you've passed away. So if there's things here, I think that you can use as tools to help avoid the squabble, as exactly as it says. So number 4, you've ensured open and regular communication with your spouse and children, and you've regularly discussed your estate and succession planning. We do laugh about it, don't we, every week, but it all comes down to communication and managing people's expectations and angst, and letting them know what to expect, and probably to 6, which is also a really good one. What their plans are for the future. Often we'll see, Mark, in your role, that the lines of communication between mum and dad and between the kids aren't entirely clear, and what the parents might think the children want isn't necessarily so.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to come back and probably plug my own barrow here a little bit, and I just have this saying with all clients I deal with, and that is that you can't fix this from within the family. You know, you can't have these conversations. I mean, it's great if you start having these conversations within the family, but I see it as pointless sitting around a table, mum, dad, and all the kids having a conversation about this. And certainly, if they bring in, daughters-in-laws and sons-in-law and so on, it just makes it even worse. But sure, you've got to start conversations somewhere, but you're not going to get out of your children, and you're not going to know whether they think things are fair or not if you just have a conversation around the table with the family. You really need to get someone else in from outside who can talk privately and personally with each of the members of the family on a confidential basis, and then you'll start to get some truth. I always say that when I turn up, even families where there's a bit of angst going on, when I turn up and talk to people, most people turn up with manners and honesty, and I can find out what the children's plans are. I can find out what everyone's thinking, what everyone's wanting to do, and so on. So communication is, just as we rattle on about every time we talk, is just such. It's the key part to the whole process of estate and succession planning. But it's very rare that you can just communicate within the family to get everything sorted, because the kids won't stand up and argue with mum and dad. If mum and dad say we're thinking of doing this, most kids will just sit there and nod their head and walk outside frustrated. If there's a loud child in the family, he might stick his hand up, but the quiet one won't say anything. There's a whole host of reasons why you need to outsource this, but being aware of it in the first instance is the most important thing, and having a checklist, right, Juanita?
Absolutely. And there's no doubt that, we, unless you're in the very small minority, most family members will feel more comfortable and more comfortable speaking to an independent person or a non-family member. You just the risk of offending family members, or as you said, the loudest ones speak louder and the quietest ones don't get the word in, or someone doesn't want to offend each other, or et cetera, et cetera. So it really does assist, unless you are the very lucky minority to have that person facilitate that.
Yeah. And look, just quickly with this scorecard, the Squabble scorecard, we're just finishing off with family harmony. Have you had facilitated conversations to make sure everyone understands what your thoughts are? 99 times out of 100, it's just that the young kids have no idea what dad's thinking. He doesn't communicate very well. And to create family harmony, everyone kind of needs to be in on the conversation. Have you attained consensus between all parties? So this is all part of communication, isn't it? Have you put in place a fully documented and funded plan which creates lifetime certainty for your spouse, as well as other financial security for people? And have you put in protections and a documented process to guarantee your dreams and wishes are followed for the benefit of the family? I mean, look, at the risk of patting ourselves on the back, these are great questions, and they make a huge difference when you're starting this conversation. You're trying to work out how to approach estate and succession planning. I tell you what, there's 10 worse questions to ask yourself than these, that's for sure.
Yep.
Hundreds worse ones. So, but the key is, and I'll just come back to us again, Juanita, is that at the end of it, I mean, look, just quickly, as you probably saw across the top of my tabs here, I've got a whole swag of these scorecards and checklists. Sends Juanita into heaven, the thought of all these checklists. But I mean, at the end of the day, to me, checklist questions are the way to get all this stuff started and to help people understand what they don't know.
Absolutely. And the couple that we won't have time to go through, the will killers, like there's a list there of things that can really send your estate planning in the wrong direction. So if one of those sort of items apply to you, you really need to get some advice around them. We could go on all afternoon, couldn't we, Mark? So there's a checklist for every occasion.
How about seeing you love these so much? How about next time we continue on and we do another couple of the checklists and scorecards and just go through some of the other questions that we ask people that helps because questions are what creates value for people that we talk to and people that we deal with. It's the power of asking, at the risk of rattling off another podcast I do. It's the power of asking great questions that helps you really discover what it is that is the most valuable for you in your life. So look, they're just a couple. We started off with the estate and succession planning checklist, and please remind me, Juanita, if I forget, and I'll put that up on Facebook.
Sure.
And avoiding the squabbles scorecard were the two that we've been through today. I hope everyone found that valuable, and you got some great thoughts and great ideas out of that. And if we can help in any way, Juanita's with Murdoch Lawyers, based in Brisbane and Toowoomba, and my business is Rural Succession Solutions. So please just send us a note, comment on Facebook, or send us an email. Get in touch, and we're happy to help. Have a great day, Juanita, and thanks everyone for watching.
Bye.
Bye.